She mistook a millionaire CEO for the delivery guy at her door, but that mistake changed everything. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into today's incredible story. Sarah didn't know it yet, but answering the door to receive a package would change her life forever. The doorbell rang, and Sarah sighed as she walked to the front door. She had just come home from her second job and was exhausted. The last thing she wanted was another delivery, but it was part of her daily routine. Opening the door, she was greeted by a man in a plain jacket holding a small package. He wasn't someone she recognized, just another delivery guy doing his job. "Package for Sarah Miller," he said, his voice low and tired. She barely looked up, just taking the package and muttering a quick thanks. "No problem," he said, before turning and heading back down the stairs. Sarah watched him leave, then closed the door, her mind already on the pile of bills waiting for her on the kitchen counter. Little did she know, the man she had just dismissed was no ordinary delivery guy. Liam Parker wasn't just anyone, he was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech company. A man who didn't make house calls, and certainly didn't stand at the door in jeans and a jacket, looking like he'd just come from a long day of errands. He wasn't just a delivery man, he was on a mission, one that would soon intersect with Sarah's life in the most unexpected way. But as Sarah sat down to unpack her meal, she didn't know any of this. She didn't know that this brief interaction would set off a series of events that would change everything for her. She didn't know that Liam, intrigued by the way she spoke and the sincerity in her voice, would be watching her from the corner of the street, wondering if he should turn around and go back. Liam had seen her face. For a moment as she took the package, her tired eyes, her worn clothes, the way she hurried to close the door, clearly eager to get back to her life. Something about that quick interaction stayed with him. He couldn't explain it, but he knew he needed to know more. The next day, after another exhausting round of meetings, he found himself standing in the same area, near Sarah's apartment. He wasn't sure why, but he felt drawn to her. He glanced at the building, wondering if she was home, and without thinking, walked toward the entrance. He was on the brink of making a decision when his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from his assistant, "The meeting is cancelled. You're free for the day." Liam paused. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it wasn't. But in that moment, he knew he had to find out more about this woman, the one who had no idea who he really was. As Sarah opened the door to leave for another shift that afternoon, she spotted him again. The same man from yesterday. But this time, he wasn't carrying a package. He was standing near the entrance, looking lost in thought. When he saw her, he smiled, but there was something different about him. He didn't seem like a delivery guy at all. She stared at him for a second, unsure of what to say. Was he looking for someone? Had he made a mistake again? "Hey," he called out softly, as if he'd been expecting her. She paused, raising an eyebrow. Hi. "Do I know you?" she asked, suddenly feeling awkward. He chuckled lightly. "I don't think so, but you know me now." "I'm Liam," he said, extending a hand, still carrying the weight of something unspoken in his eyes. Sarah shook his hand hesitantly. "Liam? The delivery guy, right?" she asked with a nervous laugh, realizing how silly she sounded. Liam smiled, shaking his head slightly. "Not exactly. I think we've got more to talk about than just deliveries." Sarah raised an eyebrow, still confused. This wasn't what she expected. "So, what can I do for you?" Liam took a step closer, his expression turning serious. "Well, I'd like to invite you to a charity gala tonight. There's a lot more to me than meets the eye, and I think you'll be surprised to find out why." "I'm here." Sarah was taken aback. "A gala?" For a second, she thought he was joking. But the sincerity in his eyes told her otherwise. Liam could sense the hesitation in her eyes. He smiled, reassuring her, "You don't have to come, but I think you should." Sarah stood there for a moment, processing the offer. She wasn't sure what to make of it, but something about him, something about the way he spoke, made her curious. Maybe it was time for a change. Maybe it was time to take a chance. "All right," she said finally. "I'll go." She wasn't sure why she agreed, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like something could be different. Something could change. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into today's incredible story. Sarah didn't know it yet, but answering the door to receive a package would change her life forever. The doorbell rang, and Sarah sighed as she walked to the front door. She had just come home from her second job and was exhausted. The last thing she wanted was another delivery, but it was part of her daily routine. Opening the door, she was greeted by a man in a plain jacket holding a small package. He wasn't someone she recognized, just another delivery guy doing his job. "Package for Sarah Miller," he said, his voice low and tired. She barely looked up, just taking the package and muttering a quick thanks. "No problem," he said, before turning and heading back down the stairs. Sarah watched him leave, then closed the door, her mind already on the pile of bills waiting for her on the kitchen counter. Little did she know, the man she had just dismissed was no ordinary delivery guy. Liam Parker wasn't just anyone, he was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech company. A man who didn't make house calls, and certainly didn't stand at the door in jeans and a jacket, looking like he'd just come from a long day of errands. He wasn't just a delivery man, he was on a mission, one that would soon intersect with Sarah's life in the most unexpected way. But as Sarah sat down to unpack her meal, she didn't know any of this. She didn't know that this brief interaction would set off a series of events that would change everything for her. She didn't know that Liam, intrigued by the way she spoke and the sincerity in her voice, would be watching her from the corner of the street, wondering if he should turn around and go back. Liam had seen her face for a moment as she took the package, her tired eyes, her worn clothes, the way she hurried to close the door, clearly eager to get back to her life. Something about that quick interaction stayed with him. He couldn't explain it, but he knew he needed to know more. The next day, after another exhausting round of meetings, he found himself standing in the same area, near Sarah's apartment. He wasn't sure why, but he felt drawn to her. He glanced at the building, wondering if she was home, and without thinking, walked toward the entrance. He was on the brink of making a decision when his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from his assistant, "The meeting is cancelled. You're free for the day." Liam paused. Maybe it was fate. Maybe it wasn't. But in that moment, he knew he had to find out more about this woman, the one who had no idea who he really was. As Sarah opened the door to leave for another shift that afternoon, she spotted him again. The same man from yesterday. But this time, he wasn't carrying a package. He was standing near the entrance, looking lost in thought. When he saw her, he smiled, but there was something different about him, he didn't seem like a delivery guy at all. She stared at him for a second, unsure of what to say. Was he looking for someone? Had he made a mistake again? "Hey," he called out softly, as if he'd been expecting her. She paused, raising an eyebrow. Hi. "Do I know you?" she asked, suddenly feeling awkward. He chuckled lightly. "I don't think so, but you know me now." "I'm Liam," he said, extending a hand, still carrying the weight of something unspoken in his eyes. Sarah shook his hand hesitantly. "Liam? The delivery guy, right?" she asked with a nervous laugh, realizing how silly she sounded. Liam smiled, shaking his head slightly. "Not exactly. I think we've got more to talk about than just deliveries." Sarah raised an eyebrow. still confused. This wasn't what she expected. So, what can I do for you? Liam took a step closer, his expression turning serious. Well, I'd like to invite you to a charity gala tonight. There's a lot more to me than meets the eye, and I think you'll be surprised to find out why I'm here. Sarah was taken aback. A gala? For a second, she thought he was joking. But the sincerity in his eyes told her otherwise. Liam could sense the hesitation in her eyes. He smiled, reassuring her, "You don't have to come, but I think you should." Sarah stood there for a moment, processing the offer. She wasn't sure what to make of it, but something about him, something about the way he spoke, made her curious. Maybe it was time for a change. Maybe it was time to take a chance. "All right," she said finally. "I'll go." She wasn't sure why she agreed, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like something could be different. Something could change. Sarah couldn't believe she was standing in front of a charity gala, of all places. Just hours ago, she had been struggling to make ends meet, juggling 2 jobs, wondering if she could even afford to eat this week. And now, she was standing in front of a glittering ballroom, filled with people in designer suits and gowns. The contrast was staggering. She looked down at her own simple dress, the one she had borrowed from a friend. It wasn't fancy, but it was the best she could do on such short notice. The doorman smiled at her politely but didn't seem to recognize her. She felt out of place, like an imposter. As she entered the venue, she could hear the soft hum of conversations, the clinking of glasses, and the music playing in the background. The atmosphere was elegant, sophisticated. She glanced around nervously, hoping no one would notice that she didn't belong here. She looked around for Liam. He had told her he would be waiting for her inside. She spotted him across the room, standing near a table filled with appetizers, talking to a group of people in business attire. He looked completely different from the man she had met earlier. Gone was the plain jacket and jeans. In his place was the well-dressed CEO, confident and at ease, the kind of man she would never have imagined would take the time to speak to someone like her. She hesitated, unsure whether to approach him. She had no idea what to expect, but something in her gut told her that she should at least try. She took a deep breath and walked over to him, trying to steady her nerves. As she got closer, he looked up and immediately smiled when he saw her. "Sarah," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "I'm so glad you made it." She smiled back, feeling a little less out of place in his presence. "Thanks for inviting me," she replied, her voice a little shaky. "I wasn't sure what to expect, but this is amazing." Liam laughed softly. "I know it's a bit overwhelming at first, but don't worry. Just enjoy yourself. Tonight's about giving back, and that's what really matters." Sarah nodded, trying to relax. She wasn't sure what had drawn her to Liam in the first place, but there was something about him that made her feel like she belonged here, even if only for one night. As they walked around the room, Liam introduced her to some of his colleagues, many of whom were surprised to see her with him. "I don't think I've seen you before," one of them said, eyeing her curiously. Sarah smiled awkwardly. "I'm just a friend of Liam's," she said, feeling a little out of place. Liam didn't seem to mind the questions. In fact, he seemed to enjoy showing Sarah off. He had a way of making her feel important, even though she knew she was just a regular person, with regular struggles. As the evening wore on, Sarah began to relax. She sipped on the champagne they handed out, listened to the conversations around her, and even participated in a few. She had never felt so out of place and yet so welcomed at the same time. It was a strange feeling, like she was seeing a side of the world she never knew existed. By the time the auction began, Sarah was feeling a little more comfortable. She watched as people bid on luxury items, donating enormous sums to the cause. She felt a pang of jealousy, wishing she could do the same. But then Liam turned to her with a thoughtful look on his face. "You know," he said quietly, "you don't have to be a millionaire to make a difference. Sometimes, the small things matter just as much." Sarah looked at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. I'm not sure I believe that, she admitted. I can barely pay my rent half the time. Liam's expression softened. I understand. But the way you help people, the way you care, that's what matters. It's the heart that makes the difference, not the bank account. Sarah didn't know how to respond. She had never thought of herself that way before. She had always been focused on getting by, surviving, doing what she had to do to make ends meet. But Liam's words stuck with her, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she had something valuable to offer. As the night went on, Sarah found herself thinking more and more about what Liam had said. Could it really be true that the small things she did, the kindness she showed, could make a difference? She wasn't sure, but something about the way Liam believed it made her start to wonder. After the event, Liam walked her to the door. Thank you for coming tonight, he said, his voice low and sincere. I hope it meant something to you. Sarah smiled. It did. It really did. Thank you. As she stepped outside, into the cool night air, she felt a strange sense of hope. For the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe there was something bigger out there for her. Something more than just surviving. Maybe, just maybe, she could make a difference too. The following days after the gala were a whirlwind for Sarah. She couldn't stop thinking about what Liam had said to her, how she had something valuable to offer, even if it didn't feel that way to her. The words echoed in her mind as she went about her daily routine, working long shifts, and barely scraping by. But the more she thought about it, the more she began to wonder if Liam might be right. Maybe there was more to her life than just getting by. Maybe she could make a real difference in the world. As the days passed, Liam kept in touch with Sarah, checking in on her and offering support. It was surprising how genuine his interest in her seemed. At first, she thought it was just out of politeness, but there was something different about the way he spoke to her, something that made her feel like she mattered. One evening, after finishing her shift, Sarah returned home to find a message from Liam. I've been thinking about you. There's something I want to talk to you about. Meet me tomorrow at the cafe we met at. She hesitated for a moment. What could he possibly want to talk about? Was he just being kind, or was there more to this? Still, she couldn't deny the curiosity that had been building since that night at the gala. The next day, she found herself sitting in the same cafe where they had first met. She was a little nervous, unsure of what to expect, but as soon as she saw Liam walk through the door, her anxiety melted away. He smiled warmly at her and walked over to the table, taking a seat across from her. Hey, he said, his voice calm and reassuring. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. Sarah shook her head, smiling slightly. No, it's fine. I was just surprised to hear from you. Liam nodded, his eyes thoughtful. I know you've been going through a lot lately, and I wanted to offer you something. I've been working on a new project, something that combines technology and charity, and I think you'd be perfect for it. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Wait, what do you mean? She asked, her voice filled with curiosity. Liam leaned in slightly, lowering his voice as he spoke. I'm starting a foundation, and I need someone with a real heart for helping others. I know you've been volunteering at shelters and helping out in your own way. I want to give you an opportunity to take that further, to lead the charge in making a real difference. Sarah blinked, processing what he was saying. A foundation? A chance to lead? It all sounded too good to be true. I don't know what to say, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. This is beyond anything I ever imagined. Liam smiled softly, his eyes full of understanding. I know it's a lot to take in, but I believe in you, Sarah. I think you're capable of more than you realize. You just need the right opportunity, and I want to help you get there. Sarah felt a rush of emotions flood through her, shock, excitement, disbelief. She had spent so much of her life just trying to survive, to get by, and now Liam was offering her a chance to make a real impact. She didn't know if she was ready for such a big responsibility, but the thought of helping others on a larger scale made her heart race with excitement. I don't know if I'm ready for something like that, Sarah admitted, her voice shaking slightly. I'm just a regular person. I don't have experience with something like this. Liam reached across the table, placing a hand gently on hers. That's the thing, Sarah. You don't need experience. What you have is something far more important. You have the passion, the drive to make a difference. That's what matters most. Sarah looked at him, her mind racing. Could she really do this? Could she take on such a big responsibility and make a difference? She had always doubted herself, but something about Liam's words made her believe, just for a moment, that maybe she could. After a few moments of silence, Sarah nodded, her decision made. Okay, she said softly, I'll do it. I'll help. Liam's face lit up with a smile that was both warm and genuine. I knew you'd say yes, he said, his voice full of pride. You're going to do amazing things, Sarah. I'm glad you're with me on this. As Sarah left the cafe, her mind was spinning with the possibilities. For the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful about the future. She didn't know exactly what the path ahead would look like, but she knew that it was a step toward something bigger than she ever imagined. She had always believed that the world was too big, too complicated for someone like her to make a real impact, but now she was starting to see that maybe, just maybe, she could be a part of something that could change lives. Liam had given her an opportunity, a chance. To change not only her own life, but the lives of others. It was up to her now to make the most of it. Over the next few weeks, Sarah threw herself into the new project with all her heart. Liam had kept his promise, introducing her to his network and showing her the ropes of running a foundation. It wasn't easy, but she felt something shifting inside her. For the first time, she felt like she was part of something important, something that truly mattered. Every day was a learning experience, and while the pressure was high, Sarah loved every minute of it. She spent countless hours working with the team, developing initiatives that could bring real change to the community. She was amazed at how quickly she adapted to this new world, one that was so different from the struggles she had been facing before. As Sarah worked harder, she also noticed something else. Liam was always there, guiding her, supporting her. At first, she thought it was just because of their professional relationship, but she soon realized it was something more. He trusted her, believed in her, and he made sure to show it in small, thoughtful ways. One afternoon, as they were wrapping up a meeting, Liam turned to Sarah and smiled. You know, I'm really impressed with how you're handling everything. You've come so far in such a short time. Sarah blushed, feeling a wave of gratitude. I couldn't have done it without your help, she admitted. I never imagined I would be in this position. I mean, I'm just me. But you believed in me. Liam's eyes softened, and for a moment, the professional mask slipped. That's the thing, Sarah, he said, his voice low. You're not just you. You have a heart that people can't ignore. You've got something special, and it's what's going to make all the difference. His words made her heart skip a beat, and for a brief moment, she wondered if he saw her as just a colleague, or if there was something deeper growing between them. But before she could ask, Liam's phone rang, and he quickly turned away to answer it, leaving Sarah with her thoughts. That night, Sarah lay in bed, replaying the conversation over and over in her mind. She had always admired Liam for his kindness, his belief in her, but now she was starting to feel something more. She had spent her whole life focused on survival, but now that she had found this new purpose, it was as though her world had shifted. She wasn't sure where it was going, but something told her it was leading her somewhere good. The next day, Sarah received an unexpected call. It was from the director of a prominent charity gala, one of the biggest events of the year. We've been following your work, Sarah, and we're so impressed by everything you've done. We'd love for you to speak at the gala this year, to share your story and the incredible work you're doing with the foundation. Sarah's heart raced as she listened to the offer. She couldn't believe it. A chance to speak at such a prestigious event? This was the kind of opportunity she had never even dreamed of. She felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she messed up? But then she remembered everything Liam had said to her, the way he had always believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. "Yes," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves bubbling up inside her. "I would love to." The call ended, and Sarah sat in silence for a moment, taking in what had just happened. She had gone from struggling to make ends meet, to leading a foundation, and now, she was going to speak at a charity gala. It felt like a dream come true. Later that week, Liam pulled her aside as they were preparing for another meeting. "I heard the news," he said, smiling. "I'm so proud of you, Sarah. This is a huge opportunity." Sarah felt her heart swell. "I can't believe it's happening," she said, still in awe of how far she had come. Liam's smile widened, and he looked at her with such warmth that she felt her knees go weak. "You earned it," he said softly. "This is just the beginning for you." As the day of the gala drew closer, Sarah found herself overwhelmed with nerves. She had never spoken in front of so many people before. But as the event approached, she reminded herself of what she had learned from Liam, that it wasn't about being perfect, it was about making a difference. The night of the gala, Sarah stood backstage, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the crowd outside, their chatter growing louder as the event began. Liam had given her a few encouraging words before she went on stage, but now, standing there on her own, she felt small. But then she thought of all the people she had helped along the way, all the people who had believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. She thought of Liam and the faith he had shown in her, and it gave her the strength to step out onto the stage. As Sarah took the microphone in her hand and looked out over the sea of faces in the crowd, she felt a calmness wash over her. She wasn't just talking about charity and change. She was talking about her life, her journey, and the people who had made it all possible. She spoke from the heart, sharing her story, her struggles, and how she had found hope and purpose in the most unexpected place. The room grew quiet as Sarah spoke, and for the first time, she didn't feel out of place. She felt like she truly belonged. After her speech, the applause was overwhelming, and Sarah felt a rush of emotion flood over her. She had done it. She had found her voice, and in doing so, she had found her purpose. The days following Sarah's speech at the charity gala felt like a blur, as if everything in her life had shifted into high gear. The applause still echoed in her ears, a reminder that she had done something she once thought impossible. For the first time, Sarah felt like she had a voice, one that could make a difference. But despite the overwhelming support and praise, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Her heart felt full from the changes she was making in the world, but when she looked around, she realized she was still standing on her own. Liam had been there every step of the way, offering encouragement and support, but she couldn't help but wonder if there was more between them than just the professional connection they shared. It had been a long time since she allowed herself to feel vulnerable, to acknowledge the longing in her heart. Liam, with his quiet confidence and unwavering belief in her, had become a constant presence in her life, and slowly she found herself drawn to him in a way that went beyond admiration. One afternoon, after a particularly long meeting, Sarah was alone in her office when Liam knocked on the door. She looked up, surprised to see him standing there, his expression soft. "Hey, can we talk?" he asked gently. Sarah nodded, gesturing for him to sit across from her. The room was quiet, and the tension between them felt almost palpable as Liam took a seat. "I've been thinking about something," he began, his voice serious. "I know we've been focused on the foundation, but I wanted to talk to you about us." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Us?" she echoed, unsure of what he meant. Liam took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving hers. "I know I've always believed in you, Sarah, and I know that what we've built together here is incredible. But what I haven't told you is that I believe in us too. More than just professionally, I mean. I care about you, Sarah. In a way I've never cared about anyone before." Sarah's mind raced, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. She had always respected Liam, admired his strength and kindness, but hearing him say this, hearing him admit that he cared for her in a way that was more than just business, left her speechless. She had always kept her emotions in check, focusing on the work and the people she was helping, but now, with Liam's words hanging in the air, she realized she couldn't ignore what had been building between them. "Liam," she whispered, her voice shaky, I don't know what to say. I've never felt like this before. I've always been so focused on surviving, on getting by. I never allowed myself to feel like this, not until now." Liam's hand reached across the table, gently taking hers in his. "You don't have to say anything right now," he said softly. "I just needed you to know how I feel. I've seen you grow, seen you come into your own, and I've realized something important. I don't want to keep standing on the sidelines of your life. I want to be part of it, in every way." The words hit Sarah like a tidal wave. She had spent so many years building walls around her heart, afraid to open up, afraid of what might happen if she did. But in that moment, with Liam holding her hand and looking at her with such sincerity, she felt the walls begin to crumble. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I know that I want to be with you. I just don't know how this will work, with everything we have going on." Liam smiled, his eyes warm. "We'll figure it out, Sarah. Together." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their words sinking in. In that quiet space, Sarah realized that everything had changed, not just for her, but for them. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't alone, that there was someone who truly saw her, someone who would be by her side no matter what the future held. As the days passed, their relationship began to blossom. They spent more time together outside of work, exploring new places, sharing meals, and talking about everything from their dreams to their deepest fears. Sarah had never allowed herself to be so open with anyone before, but with Liam, it felt natural. He made her feel safe, like she didn't have to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders alone. One evening, as they walked through the city, Liam stopped suddenly, turning to face Sarah. "There's something I want to ask you," he said, his voice low. Sarah looked at him, her heart racing. "What is it?" she asked, her voice soft. Liam smiled, his eyes filled with warmth and love. "Sarah, I want you to know that I'm committed to you. To us. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" The words hung in the air, and for a moment, Sarah couldn't breathe. Her heart pounded in her chest, her mind spinning with the enormity of what he had just said. She had always thought that love was something she couldn't have, something that wasn't meant for someone like her. But now, standing there with Liam, she realized that maybe love was exactly what she had been searching for all along. With tears in her eyes, she nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly, and in that moment, Sarah knew that everything had led her to this point. The journey of self-discovery, the challenges, the mistakes, and the growth, all of it had brought her to this moment of pure happiness. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was living, and she was doing it with someone who loved her for exactly who she was. The days following Sarah's acceptance of Liam's proposal felt like a dream. Everything seemed to fall into place, her career, her relationships, and most importantly, her sense of self. For years, she had lived in survival mode, always scrambling to make ends meet, never letting herself believe she deserved more. But now, as she walked hand in hand with Liam, she realized that the world she had always dreamed of was beginning to take shape before her eyes. Their wedding preparations were a whirlwind. Liam, ever the perfectionist, wanted everything to be perfect, but Sarah kept reminding him that the most important thing was the love they shared. The wedding would be simple, intimate, and meaningful. It wasn't about grandeur, it was about the connection between them, the journey they had both been on to get to this point. As they chose the venue, Sarah found herself overwhelmed with emotions. This was the life she had always wanted but never thought she could have. One evening, as they sat on the couch in their shared apartment, going over wedding plans, Sarah looked at Liam with a mixture of wonder and gratitude. "You know, I never imagined I would be here, doing all of this," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "I've always been so afraid of what could happen if I let myself dream, but now it feels like it's all coming true." Liam turned to her, his expression full of love and understanding. "You've always had it in you, Sarah. You just needed to believe in yourself the way I believe in you, he said, his voice warm. You're stronger than you know, and together we can take on anything. Sarah smiled, the weight of his words sinking in. She realized that with Liam by her side, she had the strength to face anything that came their way. The wedding day arrived in the blink of an eye, and Sarah found herself standing in front of a full-length mirror, dressed in a simple yet elegant white dress, the kind she had always dreamed of but never thought she would wear. Her heart raced as she looked at herself, realizing how far she had come. Just a few months ago, she had been working tirelessly, barely scraping by, and now, she was about to marry the man she loved, the man who had believed in her when no one else did. The ceremony was small, held in a cozy garden surrounded by family and friends who had supported them along the way. As Sarah walked down the aisle toward Liam, she couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had never felt so sure of anything in her life. The love they shared wasn't just something that had happened overnight, it had grown over time, through challenges, through learning to trust each other, and through a mutual respect that had formed between them. When they exchanged vows, Sarah's heart swelled with emotion. She promised to stand by Liam through thick and thin, to always support him, just as he had supported her. And Liam, with a steady gaze and a voice full of love, promised to always be there for her, to help her chase her dreams, and to build a life full of love and adventure. The reception that followed was filled with laughter, dancing, and joy. Sarah felt like she was living in a fairy tale, surrounded by people who cared for her and the man she had chosen to spend the rest of her life with. The night was magical, filled with moments that Sarah would cherish forever. As the evening wore on, Liam pulled Sarah aside, leading her to the balcony where they could watch the stars together. The city lights twinkled below them, but the night felt quiet, peaceful, and intimate. "This is it," Liam said, his voice low and content. "We've come so far, Sarah, and we've built something incredible together." Sarah looked up at him, her heart full of love. "I never thought this was possible," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But now I know that anything is." Liam smiled, his eyes shining with happiness. "Together, we can make anything possible." They stood there for a few moments, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the world go by. Sarah realized that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one filled with love, dreams, and the belief that she could achieve anything she set her mind to. She wasn't the same person who had walked into that restaurant months ago, unsure of who she was or what her future held. Now, she knew exactly who she was, someone capable of greatness, someone worthy of love and happiness. As they stood there in the quiet night, Sarah felt a sense of peace settle within her. She had found her home, not in a place, but in the love she shared with Liam. And together, they would face whatever came next, knowing that they had each other to lean on. The journey had been long, but it had brought them to this moment, a moment where everything felt right, where they knew that the best was yet to come. As the weeks passed after their wedding, Sarah and Liam settled into a comfortable rhythm. They were building a life together, balancing work, their foundation, and their growing love for each other. Despite the many changes in her life, Sarah still found moments to reflect on how far she had come. She had gone from struggling to get by, unsure of her place in the world, to now running a foundation and marrying the man of her dreams. It was a lot to take in, and sometimes, it still felt surreal. But every time she looked at Liam, she knew it was real. There was no denying the way he made her feel, the way he had always been there for her. He was more than just her husband, he was her partner, her rock, the one person who believed in her when she didn't believe in herself. One evening, as they were having dinner together in their cozy apartment, Liam turned to Sarah with a serious expression on his face. "There's something I've been meaning to talk to you about," he said, his voice calm but firm. Sarah raised an eyebrow, sensing the shift in his tone. "What's going on?" she asked, setting down her fork. Liam took a deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts. "I've been thinking about the foundation and the direction we're headed in. We've done great work so far, but I think we can take it to the next level. I've been in talks with some people, and they're interested in investing in our cause. We could expand, reach more people, do even more good in the world." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The thought of expanding, The foundation was exciting, but it also felt overwhelming. They had worked so hard to get to where they were now, and the idea of taking things further brought both hope and fear. "That sounds amazing," she said, her voice tinged with hesitation. "But are we ready for that kind of growth?" Liam smiled gently, reaching across the table to take her hand. "I think we are. You've proven how capable you are, Sarah. You've done things I never imagined, and I know you're more than ready to handle whatever comes next. We're in this together, and we'll figure it out, just like we always do." His words were comforting, but they also brought a wave of doubt crashing over her. Sarah had always been the one to push herself, to prove she could handle anything that came her way. But the idea of expanding their work on such a large scale made her wonder if she was really prepared for the challenges that lay ahead. "What if we fail?" she asked, her voice small. "What if we take a risk and it doesn't work out?" Liam squeezed her hand, his expression serious but reassuring. "Failure isn't the end, Sarah. It's just part of the process. The important thing is that we learn from it and keep moving forward. And I believe in us, I believe in you. I know we can make this work." Sarah looked into his eyes, seeing the unwavering support he always gave her. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel the fear, the uncertainty, but she also felt something else, hope. They had already overcome so much together, and this would just be another challenge they would face side by side. "Okay," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Let's do it. Let's take that step." Liam's face lit up with a smile, and for a moment, all the fear and uncertainty melted away. They both knew it wouldn't be easy, but they also knew they were ready to face whatever came next. The following months were filled with new meetings, new challenges, and a whirlwind of activity. As the foundation grew, so did Sarah's confidence. She found herself managing new projects, meeting with influential people, and taking on responsibilities she never thought she could handle. But with Liam by her side, she felt like she could do anything. There were moments of doubt, of course, moments when she questioned if they were really ready for this level of growth, moments when the pressure seemed too much to bear. But every time she felt like she was about to break, Liam was there to remind her of how far they had come, of everything they had accomplished together. As the foundation expanded, so did their relationship. They spent more time together, working late into the night, brainstorming ideas, and supporting each other through their ups and downs. They celebrated every small victory, knowing that each step forward was a victory for their mission and for the love they shared. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of their new office, overlooking the city, Sarah turned to Liam with a smile. "You were right," she said softly. "We could do this. Together." Liam wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "I always knew you had it in you," he said, his voice filled with pride. "And now, we're just getting started." Sarah rested her head on his chest, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. This was exactly where she was meant to be. With Liam by her side, they could accomplish anything. And for the first time in her life, she truly believed it. As they stood there, watching the city lights sparkle in the distance, Sarah knew that their journey was far from over. Together, they would continue to grow, to love, and to make the world a better place, one step at a time. As Sarah and Liam continued to grow the foundation, their lives became even more intertwined with their work. They faced challenges they had never anticipated, from fundraising hurdles to moments of doubt about their ability to manage such a vast project. Yet, each time the pressure felt overwhelming, they leaned on each other, their bond growing stronger than ever. The foundation was becoming a beacon for positive change, and Sarah was increasingly recognized for her leadership. It was a feeling she had never known before, or a sense of accomplishment, a sense of pride that she had made something meaningful, something that would last. But with this new recognition came new responsibilities. There were more meetings, more events, and more people depending on her and Liam to guide the way. It was a lot to juggle, but Sarah had come so far since the days when she struggled just to make ends meet. Every day, she reminded herself of how much she had grown. She was no longer the uncertain woman who had once doubted her ability to make a difference. She was a leader, a force for good, and she was doing it with Liam by her side. One evening, after an exhausting day of meetings, they decided to take a break and go for a walk. They found themselves walking through the park near their apartment, the cool evening air refreshing after a long day. As they strolled along the path, Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude wash over her. She looked at Liam, his face illuminated by the streetlights, and for the first time in a while, she allowed herself to pause and appreciate everything they had built together. "You know," Sarah said softly, breaking the comfortable silence between them, "I never imagined this would be my life. I've always dreamed of making a difference, but I never thought I could. Not like this." Liam glanced over at her, a warm smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "I always knew you could," he said simply. "You've always had it in you. It just took someone who believed in you to help you see it." Sarah smiled, feeling her heart swell at his words. "I don't think I could have done it without you," she admitted. "You've always been there, every step of the way. I don't even know how to thank you for that." Liam took her hand in his, squeezing it gently. "You don't need to thank me," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "I believe in you, Sarah. And I always will." They continued walking in comfortable silence, each of them lost in their thoughts. Sarah couldn't help but think about how much had changed in such a short amount of time. She had found herself, and in doing so, had found love, purpose, and a life she could have only dreamed of before. And now, with the foundation growing, there was a new kind of pressure, one that came with the realization that they were changing lives, making a real impact, and inspiring others to do the same. The next morning, as Sarah sat at her desk reviewing the latest project proposals, she received an email that would change everything. The subject line read, "A new opportunity." She opened it quickly, her heart racing as she read the contents. It was an invitation to meet with a group of philanthropists who were interested in partnering with the foundation. The potential for growth was immense. The email suggested a meeting in a few days, and the idea of expanding their reach to an international level felt both exciting and daunting. For a moment, Sarah felt a wave of doubt wash over her. Was this too much too soon? Could they really take on something so huge? But as she thought about it, she realized this was the next step, this was the opportunity she had worked so hard for. She couldn't let fear hold her back. After a quick conversation with Liam, they both agreed that they had to take this leap. It was time to take their vision to a global scale. A few days later, they were in a luxurious conference room, surrounded by some of the most influential people in the philanthropic world. Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she spoke about the work they had done, the lives they had impacted, and the vision they had for the future. To her surprise, the meeting went better than she could have ever imagined. The philanthropists were impressed with their passion and their results, and they were eager to support them. Sarah and Liam left the meeting with a feeling of accomplishment, knowing that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their journey. As they walked out of the building together, Sarah felt the weight of what they had just agreed to settle into her chest. This was no small undertaking. But as Liam took her hand and gave her a reassuring smile, she knew they could handle it, together. The future was wide open, and they were ready to face it, whatever it held. As they made their way home, Sarah felt a deep sense of gratitude for everything they had accomplished, and for the love that had been the foundation of it all. They had come so far, and the best was yet to come. As the months passed, Sarah and Liam continued to build their legacy, expanding the foundation and reaching new heights. The global partnerships they had formed were starting to show real results, and their work was touching lives all over the world. With every new project, every new initiative, Sarah's confidence grew. And she began to see the power of her own potential. She had come so far from the woman who had once felt lost, overwhelmed, and unsure of her place in the world. Now, she was a leader, a visionary, and a force for change. But with every success came new challenges. The weight of the responsibility they carried was ever present, and there were times when Sarah wondered if they were pushing too hard, moving too fast. The pressure was intense, and the demands on their time were constant. But through it all, Sarah never felt alone. Liam was there every step of the way, providing unwavering support and encouragement. He was more than just her husband, he was her partner in every sense of the word. They faced the challenges together, celebrated the victories together, and most importantly, they held each other up when the weight of the world felt too heavy. One evening, after a long day of meetings and phone calls, Sarah and Liam sat together on the couch in their living room. The soft glow of the lamp illuminated their faces as they sat in comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts. Finally, Sarah spoke. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing enough?" she asked, her voice soft. "I mean, we've come so far, and we've made such a difference, but sometimes I feel like there's always more to do, more people to help." Liam turned to her, his expression calm and reassuring. "Of course I wonder," he said. "But then I think about everything we've already done, everything we've accomplished together. We've created something incredible, Sarah. And we're just getting started. We don't have to change the world in one day. Every little step we take, every person we help, it all adds up." Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of his words sink in. He was right, of course. It was easy to get caught up in the idea that they had to do everything at once, but the truth was, every small action made a difference. They didn't need to solve every problem in the world, they just needed to keep doing what they were doing, one step at a time. As they sat there together, holding hands and watching the quiet evening unfold around them, Sarah felt a deep sense of peace. She had found her purpose, and she had found the love of her life. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but it had also been filled with moments of joy, growth, and discovery. And now, as she looked at Liam, she realized that the journey wasn't just about changing the world, it was about changing their own lives, and creating a future that was full of possibility. The next morning, Sarah woke up early, feeling a renewed sense of energy. She had always been an early riser, but today, there was something different about the way she approached the day. She had come to understand that life was not just about surviving, it was about thriving, about embracing the opportunities that came their way and using them to make a positive impact. As she sat down at her desk to begin her day, she looked out the window, watching the city come to life as the sun rose over the horizon. It felt like a new beginning, a fresh start, and for the first time, Sarah realized that everything she had worked for had led her to this moment. She wasn't just living in the moment, she was building the future. And she was doing it with the man she loved, the man who had stood by her side through it all. The foundation had become their shared mission, a reflection of their commitment to each other and to the world around them. Together, they had created something that would last, something that would continue to make a difference for generations to come. Sarah knew that there would be more challenges ahead, more obstacles to overcome, but she also knew that with Liam by her side, they could handle anything. The future was wide open, full of endless possibilities, and Sarah was ready to embrace it. As she took a deep breath and got to work, she felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. She had found her place in the world, and with Liam, they would continue to make the world a better place, one step at a time. Their journey had only just begun,